Welcome to the Straight Red Card, and today Brett and I are going to take on, the whole MLS Finals. LA Galaxy versus the Houston Dynamo. And I guess I'll just take on the game in general first, Brett. I really didn't think it was that, I don't know, it wasn't really that exciting of a game. Maybe because there weren't a whole lot of goals, and maybe because there weren't a whole lot of opportunities. But it just, I don't know. It was nice to see L.A. win it, if you're me. I'm an L.A. fan, so I like that. It was nice to see, if you like Beckham, then you like to see the fact that he left on a positive note, because I doubt he's coming back. And but other than that, it wasn't very thrilling because, frankly, Dominic Kinnear, I don't care how good of a manager you are, in this situation, missing Brad Davis is just, it was, as we said before this game, it was just going to be too big of a chunk.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in all honesty, LA pressed high and hard at the very beginning of the game, and actually throughout the entire first half, put Houston on their heels for the most part.
Yep.
It's not saying that neither team didn't have that many opportunities throughout the match. I will say that LA had a handful, at least in the first half, that they could have easily put away and been a couple goals up come halftime.
Yeah.
I think missing Brad Davis, it's just one player, but that one player commands a lot of respect. That'd be like say Donovan was missing at the finals. He's not the team, but he is a player that demands respect. I thought that LA basically owned that entire right side.
Yeah.
And that's nothing really against Ash, because I thought Ash played well. He was dangerous when given the opportunity to be. I thought the problem came down to Jermaine Taylor. He had a terrible first half. Thank God he picked it back up. That first half was just massive blunder after massive blunder.
Yeah.
I mean, neither team really had many opportunities on goal. It was a couple flub chances by Chrisman, and you had a couple poor back passes to Tally Hall, who managed to get to them before the LA attack did.
Yeah,
and I think it was Moffitt had Houston's one sole chance really on goal.
Yeah,
or around goal. Let me rephrase that. They didn't get it on goal, but yeah, it was. There were some interesting moments about the game, but overall there weren't many chances, and it wasn't overly exciting.
No, it wasn't. I mean, you mentioned Chrisman. I mean, honestly, the game could have been 3-0. And I've noticed a number of times already this today how many articles have Adam Chrisman's name spelled incorrectly. They have it spelled as Christman. I just want to be clear. There's a reason that he isn't called Christman. It's just Christman. Very simple. And why his name is Christman is because he's certainly nowhere near a Christ-like player. He was horrible. He was just not ready for prime time, and it was just painful to watch, and thank God Bruce pulled him in the second half because and threw Landon up top. And that was probably just as much the fact that Christman was horrible as Arena wanted to kind of change the lineup and put Landon in there and give it a more attacking flair, which, of course, how fitting that ended up being a Beckham header down to Keane, who flicked it over to Donovan, who finished it. So it was the 3DP special, which that doesn't sound very nice, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's strange to think that a team could actually be pining for the days when they had Chad Barrett up top.
Yeah.
Nothing against Barrett. I think he's an average MLS striker. Not saying that he's average, but but he does also tend to miss some close opportunities, or at least he used to in the past. But given the opportunities that Chrisman had, I would imagine that Barrett probably would have at least finished one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to look at the changes Bruce made in the second half, you got to wonder almost, why didn't you start like that?
Yeah.
Why not push Donovan up top?
Yeah.
And open up the midfield.
And when they had the starting lineup and they put Chrisman in there, I hadn't read some of the prior news reports, and once they made that lineup announcement, my first thought was, well, where in the hell is Barrett? Why would you start Chrisman as if Barrett wasn't bad enough? And then, of course, we found out that Barrett popped his
ankle
right out of socket. Supposedly, it was
they're talking
disgusting.
about the players being cringing at the injury.
Oh, yeah, I just can't stomach stuff like that either.
No.
So it's remember earlier in the year when we had the very violent broken leg in Seattle. Mm-hmm. Oh God! So I'm glad they didn't have a replay of that or anything. But the thing is, when they started Chrisman, I felt the same thing. I'd rather them, throw Burchell out in the right and put Donovan up top. But it all worked out. It wasn't very exciting. I thought we run down some of the guys that played really well. David Beckham was not sharp early, but boy, did he play well later. Again, with all his pinpoint passing. I thought Gonzalez was solid as a rock, and in many ways could have been, an MVP candidate. Donovan was missing for some parts of the game, but I thought, on the whole, he was pretty good. He finished, and that's what counts. And then Keane, as usual, it creates a lot of opportunities, or they don't always end up being anything. And then, of course, the one big deal, when he was upset with Donovan for not passing him that ball on the fast break, remember that?
Yeah.
Well, he was offsides. Robbie, you were offsides.
He may have thought that if Donovan would have played it a little bit sooner, he wouldn't have been at that point. It almost seemed like Donovan maybe took an extra touch by the time Keane got offsides. But
Donovan might have been a little greedy. Yeah, a little greedy.
I thought Beckham played fine. Nothing really to complain about his game. He showed that he's still hard in on tackles, which is nice to see.
Yeah,
it means he has that drive, he has that ambition to play as hard as he can whenever he plays, and that's still nice to see, even though it could be his last game in the league.
Yep.
I was shocked to find out because I hadn't really followed LA that closely, but I was shocked to find out that he was actually tied for the most yellow cards in the league at 10.
He loves those studs up tackles.
He decided to take that honor away from whoever he was tied with. I forgot who they said it was.
Like 11 yellow cards or something.
Yeah, he got his 11th. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought Gonzo had a great game. He showed that even for a tall guy, he's got some agility. Jumping over tackles, late tackles that came. It kind of squashes the arguments that people have against him for being called up to the men's side, thinking that he's just a lumbering giant.
Yeah,
who's going to heave the ball to the field. I thought he made a lot of nice crisp passes out of the back.
Yep.
I think a lot of the defensive security really stemmed from him.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think people who have been criticizing Gonzalez need to step off.
Yeah,
I think it's time.
He definitely deserves a shot.
Yeah, it's getting almost to the point of being ridiculous at this point.
You mentioned Keane. I thought Keane had a decent game. He should have had a goal. I don't think he was offsides. I think it was pretty obvious on the replay that he was onside when the ball was played.
Right.
But as you pointed out, the 3D special, the Beckham to Keane to Donovan.
Yeah.
It still won the game for them.
Yeah.
As far as Houston's concerned, I thought.
Well, before you move on to Houston, though, one thing I had to say about Robbie Keane in those pregame and postgame interviews, I've never seen a guy who just didn't sound like he gave up a rat's butt about this game at all. He played hard and everything, but he must be one of the coolest characters ever. He was like the Irish Clint Eastwood or something, He just didn't look very enthused before or after the game at all. What does that say about Robbie Keane? I don't know, but I thought I'd bring it up because I thought I found
it could just be his mentality. It's just how he approaches the games. He might not be overly anxious, overly. Oh my God! I can't wait to get out there and do this.
This is the same guy who does backflips when he scores, right?
Sort of, more of a cartwheel /
yeah. Oh yeah.
Punch in the air. Oh, an awkward celebration to say the least.
It's not very manly, yeah. I'm not a gymnast, so I don't know, but I believe you're right. It's called a cartwheel, and I believe cheerleaders do that or something, right?
So do 6-year-olds.
And 6-year-olds, girls. I think guys are asked to do it in gym class. But, hey, I'm being picky now. But you were going to say something about Houston? Is there anything to say about Houston?
Well, despite the fact that they didn't create many opportunities, there were some standouts in my opinion.
Okay.
I thought Jeff Cameron had a good game.
I agree.
I thought that would have been a shame if he got injured there the first half, but he came out and muscled through it.
Yeah.
Just tweaked to the knee, which would be a game ender there. But
he limped around a little, but yeah.
I thought, for his age and being snubbed at the World Cup, I thought Brian Ching had a great game.
Yeah.
He didn't have many opportunities, but when he did, he brought that ball down perfectly. He did it with two defenders, De La Garza and Gonzo, pressuring him.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he had a good game. It's just the rest of the team really just provided no service until like the last 20 minutes of the game when they were down a goal.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked to see Will Bruin wasn't brought in earlier, or wasn't brought in at all, actually. They were talking about bringing him in, but they didn't end up putting him in.
Who ended up coming in instead? I'm trying to remember who that was.
I'm spacing his name right now.
But it was a midfielder instead of a striker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, if you're down and you're heading towards the end of the game, you throw a Will Bruin in there. You throw strikers up there, right?
Somebody you can make something out of nothing.
Instead, I think they went with three in the back and they moved Cameron up into the midfield spot.
More of a higher up midfielder spot, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, and if you have faith in Cameron, I guess that makes, he's kind of a makeshift CAM/striker in that situation. So, all right. But it didn't work.
One thing I noticed was Harks and Dark had mentioned how much they thought highly of Carr's thought process and how, on certain plays.
Yeah.
Although I thought his thought process was a little slow.
I did too.
There were a couple times where he had Ash out on the left, could have played that early ball. I mean, there were times where Ash was waving his arms, flailing them in the air, saying, "Cross the ball, cross the ball."
Yeah.
They never crossed the ball. They kept it all on one side. Sometimes Carr held on to it too long and got dispossessed, or he tried to force a pass that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Well, it was just not working in their favor.
Harks says some weird things, and of course we won't have Harks to kick around anymore because Twellman's going to take his spot, and they are not renewing his contract. But I mean, he said those weird things about Kalen Carr. The other game he had this whole spiel about how great Sean Franklin was, how solid of a player he is. But I just don't see that. Sean Franklin, as I mentioned before, he doesn't finish. He doesn't finish a pass. He's fast, but I just haven't seen him anything he's done amount to anything on the attacking end of the field. But they don't really rely on him for that. But speaking of John Harks, his compatriot Ian Dark also says some weird things, but he'll be staying on. His Carlos Costly sounds like a player from a soccer soap opera comment just had me flabbergasted. I don't know what he was talking about except the fact that Carlos Costly's name is sort of it's alliteration, and maybe that is kind of soap opera-esque. But then he better get used to it because his new compatriot in the box is going to be Taylor Twellman.